this video, I'll share with you a requested tutorial on how to cut this underburst corset with yoke placement. Now to start, I'm going to start by marking my basic pattern, which is my shoulder to bust, underbust and waist. So we are focusing on the upper part of this dress. I'll go ahead to mark the shoulder divided by 2 and I'll come down by 1 inch. Now from this point, I'm going to place and draw my shoulder slope. Now after marking this, I'll just go ahead to mark out a basic neckline of 3 inches. Now I'm going to go ahead to find my chest line, which is my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Now I'll place my ruler and I'll draw out a straight line. After marking this, I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2. Now I'm going to add ½ inch because this dress has a sleeve. Now just like I did also for the shoulder at the upper part, it is my shoulder divided by 2 plus half. Now I'll go ahead to divide what I have here into 2 and mark. Now I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. After marking this, I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler. I'll connect from the bust to that ½ inch and to the upper part of my shoulder. After marking this, I'm going to go ahead to mark my dart, and to mark my dart, I need my nipple to nipple divided by 2. Now I'm going to mark that. I'm going to mark from the upper part to the under bust and the waist. After marking that, I'll place my ruler and I'll draw out a straight line. Now after marking this line, I'll mark my dart intake. I'll mark 1 inch on both sides. Now if you're plus size or you're a bit busty, now go ahead to use 1.5 inches on both sides. Now after marking your dart intake, go ahead to place your ruler and connect from the under bust to the waist. Now place your ruler and you're going to connect. From the bust down to the under bust of my pattern. Now after I'm done marking this, the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to mark where I want my cup to stop. So for this particular pattern, I'm using 2 inches. You can go ahead to measure from your shoulder to where you want it to stop, or measure from the chest line. Now this particular pattern is an under bust corset. Now you have to draft out your basic corset pattern and now do a yoke placement on top. Now that is after you're done sewing your corset, you're going to place your chantilly lace on it, then trace out the neckline. After this, I'll just go ahead to mark my dart, and that is my nipple to nipple. I'll extend this up. Now we'll soon get to that part of this corset where we'll be doing the yoke placement, although I'll be using a paper to illustrate that. So you need a pineapple mannequin or your client actually to do that part. Now for my dart on top, I marked 1 inch on both sides. If you're plus size, use 1.5 inches on both sides, or you can go ahead to use 1 inch at the center and 2 inches by the side. But if you're a bit busty, consider using 2.5 inches by the side. Now I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now I'll pick the dart here and replace. Now if you're making this in a way that you don't need so much allowance, you use the one at the over bust, that is the dart intake there, and I'll add my sewing allowance. Here I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, replace the dart intake I have here, and then add my sewing allowance. Here I'll go ahead to mark my waist circumference divided by 4, replace my dart intake and add my sewing allowance. So after I'm done marking this, I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler, and I'm going to go ahead to draw to connect my pattern starting from the bust, under bust and waist. Now after marking this, I'll use my marker to outline my pattern to make it more visible for you to see. Now from here, I'll be coming in from the bust area or the chest line area. Now I'm going to go ahead to come down by ½ inch, go in by ½ inch. Now I will go down by ½ inch a bit, place my curve through and connect. So after connecting, I was not okay with my cup. I had to go ahead to do some readjustment to the cup area of this pattern because the cup was looking a bit too pointy, and I went ahead to readjust. Now you're going to go ahead to connect your cup. After you're done connecting this way, now you'll now draw out the neckline or the cup of your corset this way. Now connect the other side. Now to draw out your cup to at the other side, mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2 plus half. Now let's say if your bust is bigger, you mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2 and go ahead to add 1 inch to it. After this, I'll just go ahead and use my marker to connect, and I will outline this part and outline the underbust part of this corset, label it, and I'll cut this out. Now after cutting this out, I'll be taping this together as one piece because I'll be placing it in a way as if we are trying to like make this dress. Now there are two ways to go about this. You can just cut out this pattern, and when you cut it out, you place like extra 1 inch or 1.5 round it, just in case, so that when you are placing it back on the pattern, it will be giving you what you want, and then you can chop off the excess, right? But if you're using a chantilly lace, when you're placing it, make sure the part that has the design is at the center part of the yoke, just like we have in that picture. Now I'll go ahead to draw my bust dart. To mark your bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. My shoulder to waist in front is 17, while my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. Now I'll just go ahead to connect. Now after this, I'll just go ahead to cut out my pattern, and when I'm cutting it out, I'll blend up the dart area this way, and I'll cut out the rest of my pattern. Now I'll be blending out the dart, and after cutting this, I'll join it as one piece. Now just like I said, you can place this, cut it out, but add extra inches to it when you're cutting. Now this method might not give you the guaranteed design you want, that yoke that you want, but this is if you're playing safe or if you're not really good at doing the yoke placement on the person's body directly. But for this particular dress, you have to do like a yoke placement. That is how the yoke area was actually achieved. You have to make like a tube cupped corset, then place the yoke. So I had to go ahead to like use my tape to hold this down, and I'll be placing this down on a mannequin to show you. So I'm just joining it as if I'm making the actual dress. So you're going to like finish making your dress for this method. So let's draft the back pattern first before we head over to the mannequin to go ahead to do the necessary cutting. So I added a zipper for the back, and for the back pattern, this is my shoulder to bust and waist. My shoulder to waist at the back is shorter with 1.5 inches. Now also mark your shoulder plus ½ inch, come down by 1 inch, and from that 1 inch point, you draw your shoulder slope or your shoulder slant also. So I'll just mark a basic neckline of 3 inches. This is serving as a guide for the shoulder slant. Now after marking this, find your chest line just like we did for the front, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and I'll draw out a straight line. Mark back what you have on the shoulder here. Now I'll draw a straight line at that point, and after that I'm going to divide my armhole into 2. After dividing, I'll come out by ½ inch. Go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now I'll go ahead to place my curve drill, connect from that point to this point and to the upper part of my shoulder. After I'm done connecting, the back pattern is very easy. There's nothing much to do. Start by marking your nipple to nipple divided by 2, and my nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches, which I went ahead to place my ruler, and I'll draw a straight line. Now After marking that, I'll come down by 1/2 inch on both sides of my pattern. Now after marking this, I'll go ahead to reconnect and I'll connect the other side of this pattern. After I'm done marking that, I'm going to go ahead to use my marker to outline. After I'm done outlining at this part, I'll now go ahead to insert my body measurement. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, add my sewing allowance, mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. Now I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'll draw out a straight line. Sorry, I'll draw a line connecting my pattern because my body is not straight. Here I'll mark 2 inches. So if you're using 2 inches for the front, you should also use it for the back. Now when we are doing the yoke placement, I'll also make sure that at the shoulder we have 2 inches. So use 2 inches or 2.5 because by the time you attach your sleeve, it will take out 1/2 inch from it. So you might be left with 1.5 or 2 inches after adding the sleeve to the yoke area. So I came down by 1/2 inch from my chest line and I connected. This is so that it will tighten this yoke area very well, right? Now after marking this, I'll go down and mark 1/2 inch here and connect. Now also on the yoke, I was supposed to take out 0.3 inches at the upper part to further tighten the yoke, which I actually forgot to do, so you can do that. Now at the waistline, I marked 1/2 inch, extended it up to take out the zipper bulge. Now I'll go ahead and cut this out. After we are done cutting this out, this is what we have for the back pattern. There's nothing much here. The back pattern is very simple. You can use this yoke and join it to that of your front. The back does not really have much work. Where the much work is on the back pattern, on the front pattern of this dress. Now you can decide to blend out your dart, or you can just go ahead to cut it out and join it back. Now let's move over to further explanation of the front. So now let's say you're done making your corset, you've attached your skirt and joined the back. Now you're trying to place the yoke to get that underbust yoke placement. So now let's say that this is the yoke, this is the chantilly lace that you have. Now you're going to place it and make sure that this place on the neckline is the part that has that design, right? And make sure that you slant it so that it's going to suit the neckline of the dress. Now you're now going to trace out your armhole this way, right? You see how I'm tracing it? You're going to trace out the armhole this way. Now after tracing this, what you do now is you're going to trace the part that has that cup, that is round your cup. That's the next part you trace. But when you're tracing it, please go ahead to add extra 1 to 2 inches. Just add like a little excess so that later you can carefully like remove excess. Let's say when you're doing a yoke placement at the side of the bust, you're always having like an excess. You can create like a dart, like pleat it out and stitch on it, right? I don't know if you can do a yoke placement or if you can do that. Actually there are videos you can also watch. Now after doing that, make sure that what you have under covers very well. Now you're going to start tacking it, like doing the placement, how to do this placement on your dress. So you're now going to tack it down round and attach on the body of the corset, and make sure the part that has the design on the chantilly is facing the center part of the corset.